Now can I be heard? There. Let's see what's, okay. Apparently when I moved the mic, the cord came out. Let's see here. Oh, hello, Lob Selvith. Welcome. Welcome to my horror. How are you doing today? I'm doing pretty good. Got all my kitties with me after they had a morning of fighting with the dog because they want to be friends and the kitties don't want to be friends, but the dog does. Excuse you, do not fall. We'll give it a couple more minutes, see if we get anybody else hanging out. See if my mic gives me any more problems. The way I have it, I don't know, I have a very cheap mic stand. It works, but there's not very many places to attach it to in here, and it doesn't have its own stand, so it's awkward getting it to stay in place. Hey, Dalloway, welcome. Hey, Rabami, welcome, welcome. We're going to read another 3 chapters today. Oh, the horror. The horror. Because obviously I have to reread at least partially through these when I'm working on the images and preparing and all. And oh, the horror. Oh. If you hadn't seen the previous episode, quick update on that. Basically, I wrote a self-insert fanfic during middle school where I get to romance Dante. Who wouldn't want that? And it's pretty poorly written because I was a child, and I had no idea how to write basically anything. The main character is named Christine, and she is a college student, and she is working at a pizza place, and that's how she meets Dante, and she becomes friends with him. Hello, Queen. And her family has some mysterious history. Her grandfather is this rich old man. There might be some kind of, like, mafioso ties there. We'll find out. And last week on Fanfic Friday, her grandfather called her to come to his house, and that's where we're starting this week, so we may as well get started. Let's see if I can jump up here. Oh, let's move that. Go out of my way. All right. We will get started. Against my better judgment. Hello, Gabriella. Welcome. Get it comfortable here. All right. Here we go. It was early morning, and Dante Sparta was asleep at his desk when the phone rang. It shook him from his dreams, which he couldn't remember upon waking. That was odd. His night visions were usually vivid, haunting. But it was probably a good thing he couldn't remember this time. Most of his dreams were really nightmares. The phone rang again, so the sleepy man leaned up and grabbed it. Devil May Cry, Dante speaking. I really need a secretary for this shit. Hey, Dante, a female voice giggled. Remember me? Dante chuckled back. Sorry, babe, must be amnesia. And then another, I didn't apparently, I guess maybe that was supposed to be italicized so that you know it's a thought. I didn't date this girl, did I? Hey, Zul. I'm Madison. I was with Christine at the pizza place. The totally unnamed pizza place. Dante's brow furrowed. Christine? That couldn't be the delivery girl. The delivery girl, he asked. That's her. So that's her name. Note to self, remember Pizza Girl's name. So what about her? Nothing, I just wanted to call and ask you something. Are you free sometime next week? Dante laughed, swinging his legs up on the desk. Depends on what I could be doing. The girl giggled. That's all she does. Well, if you're interested, I've got a friend who'd love to hang. If you want to take her out to dinner sometime next week. Curiosity spread over the man's face, just like a rash. A blind date? Sure, it'll be fun, and you'll like the girl. She's really amazing. Dante thought about it for a moment, but it didn't take long. Why the hell not? Maddie squealed. Oh, thank you. How about Monday night? The two continued to talk about when to set it up and where to go, and once they were done, Dante said goodbye and hung up. Whoever Madison was, she was talkative. How a cynical girl like Christine put up with her was beyond him. Hey, Jeff. Thinking of Christine made Dante smirk. She was one piece of work, but she was interesting. She wasn't even that pretty. There was just something about her. Grinning, the man picked up his phone and dialed the pizza place. A warm deep dish and a few cutting words from the young woman were just what the doctor ordered. Hey, it's me, Dante said when someone answered. I want the usual. I'm afraid we can't deliver it, the man said nervously, sighing. The delivery girl hasn't been in. She left last night and hasn't showed up since. Something about that struck a chord in Dante's mind. Perhaps it was instinct, but something felt wrong about the situation. Has she called at all? Nothing. I haven't got a clue where she is, and orders are piling up. That girl. Dante hung up before the rant continued. The delivery girl. Christine was in trouble. That's what Dante's intuition told him, so he immediately picked the phone up again. He looked up Madison's number on his received calls list and called her back. Hey, Dante cut to the chase. Have you heard from Christine? No. Why? Is something wrong? Dante gripped the phone tighter. Something was definitely up. So much already. So much. Ugh. Christine's ears were burning as she drove down the country road towards her grandfather's. She turned the radio down as the mansion came into view, feeling a familiar sense of awe. Bartholomew's mansion, tucked away in the country, hidden down a long dirt road. That's not a sentence. Okay. From far away, it didn't look like much, but as you got closer, it was easy to see its majesty. It was old and in need of repair, but no one came to fix it because Christine's grandpa wasn't very trusting. Christine had spent some time there as a young child, but had gone less and less as she grew older. It had been years since she'd been there. She missed the place. A serene smile came to her lips. Home away from home, she muttered. Most of her childhood had been spent in the imposing mansion, until her parents were divorced. Her father received custody, and since Bartholomew was her mother's father and he didn't like Christine's dad, they stopped visiting. That made Christine worry. It had been years since her grandfather had asked her to come visit. Why was he asking now? Getting out of the car, Christine locked it and headed towards the door. 2 trumpeting angels guarded the front porch and were tinged green. She remembered them from her childhood, too. Okay. Christine rang the doorbell, and a moment later, Bartholomew's butler answered it. As a kid, Christine had thought the butler was a vampire, and time had not changed her views. He was a creepy old man. Welcome, Miss Christine, he greeted with a boy! He greeted with a boy! Okay. It's definitely supposed to say bow. Like he greeted her with a bow. But I wrote boy. So there's just a boy standing next to him. And a creepy European accent. Obviously. Gotta be a creepy... How am I gonna do... I can't do accents. I don't even know what's a European accent. Good evening. I guess that's what it would be, is like a vampire. Like, welcome, Miss Christine. Your grandfather waits in the dining room. I don't even know how. Anyway. Christine was suddenly second-guessing her visit. Something felt wrong about it all. Still, she stepped into the mansion, almost expecting to catch on fire when she crossed the threshold, or for monsters to leap out of the shadows. You know, when you visit Grandpa and you just catch on fire. God. But there were no demons like those from the alleyway. There was only old artwork of angels and Greek gods lining the halls. How's Grandpa? Christine asked, trying to break the creepy silence. Hey, Gandhi, you come to join us? I accidentally closed he put his, well, he didn't on purpose, but his tail got in between the door of the cabinet and it got smashed on him, and I think he was mad at me. I think he forgive me now. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to smash your tail. I didn't mean to. Happy boy. Whew. How is Grandpa? Christine asked, trying to break the creepy silence as the butler took her jacket. In good health, he replied. That's good to know. The front hall had always been like a maze, with towering statues at every corner. Somehow the butler knew the way, quickly leading Christine past a slightly nude statue of Artemis, beyond another statue of an angel and a man wrestling, until they finally reached the dining room. I guess this was my idea of how to make it seem like someone's rich, is just describe all the weird old art they have. I guess. Hello, everybody jumping in, if I've missed anybody. Let's see. Like all other rooms in the manor, it was enormous, rich, and imposing. It made Christine feel slightly ill, as if she suddenly had to be on her best behavior. A long, shining table stretched out before her, and to one side a fire crackled in the fireplace. At the end of that long table sat a man, small, yet not frail nor weak. With burning eyes, he looked up from the newspaper he was reading, and he looked at Christine. The woman's spine trembled. Her spine trembled. Grandpa seemed different. He'd always been kind, fatherly to her when she was young, but now Bartholomew was almost enraged, and she'd only walked through the door. Grandpa? Christine muttered. Are you all right? In a moment he blinked, and the fiery anger was gone. Christine! Laughing, the old man stood, coming up to about Christine's midsection? That is a short old man! He approached her, a soft smile on his face. In his left hand was a cane. It's been so long. You're a young woman now. Hasn't been that long, Gramps. Christine smiled. She felt a little more at ease. Still, she knew something was wrong. The old man laughed again, hugging Christine when he reached her. Then he leaned back and examined her face. You look more like your mother every day. Thanks, she smiled. Bartholomew motioned to the table. Hungry? I had Aaron prepare your favorite, chicken parmesan. He approached his chair again. I hope that's still your favorite. It is, thanks, she smiled, sitting at the nearest chair. In a moment, the creepy butler, Aaron, was in front of her, placing her meal down. It was unsettling. He's like a shadow. The mansion had certainly grown darker over the years. There's so much to talk about, but specifically I want to mention the fact that the creepy old butler who looks like a vampire and has a European accent is named Aaron. Yeah, you know, that old vampire from Europe. Aaron! Yeah, that's him. Okay. Oh boy. Dante was still on the phone when he mounted his bike. So, mysterious call from Grandpa, then she goes missing? Yeah, Madison said on the line as Dante cranked the vehicle. He calls all the time, but Krista hasn't actually been to his house in years. Well, okay, it's not a house, but whatever. It's really weird. And where would this house that's not a house be? Dante asked into the phone. Outside of town if you go down the interstate. And they were off, Dante on his bike and Madison guiding him, because she somehow has an internal GPS. I don't know. The silver-haired demon hunter had no idea what he was doing. Just because a standoffish woman suddenly visits family does not mean she's in need of help. But something was off, and Dante always trusted his instincts. The real question was why he was sticking his neck out anyway. The woman was likely to just give him a headache instead of thanking him for rescuing her. After getting directions from Madison and hanging up, Dante tucked his phone away. I need to get laid, he muttered. Man, interesting. Do I have any author's notes with this one? Yes, I saw at least one. I'll let you know before they get here. Oh, God. Dinner was awkward. Usually it was so easy to talk to Grandpa over the phone. But he was being rather quiet, even standoffish. It made Christine uneasy. Still, she didn't say a word. She knew better, and decided to be polite instead. But each time she tried talking to him, he seemed not to listen, like he was distracted. Finally, ignoring propriety, Christine simply asked, "Grandpa, is everything all right?" For the first time that evening, her grandfather looked her in the eye. "I'm easy to read, aren't I?" He chuckled. Christine did as well, but in truth, it was forced. This was all creepy, and Grandpa was as easy to read as a picture book. I don't know what any of that's supposed to mean. "There must be a reason you called me. Is it Mom?" Christine wondered, slightly worried. The old man sighed. "No, it's not your mother." He dabbed his lips with his napkin, sighing again. I know it has another meaning, but my brain, he just went, dabbed his lips. "I'm afraid I've kept some secrets these past years," Grandpa muttered. "And until now, they haven't mattered. But now I fear for your safety." Christine's overactive writer's imagination immediately made her think of the mafia or a crime gang. You know, your local crime gang. She had images of dead bodies in the basement. Was that how Grandpa could afford all the fancy artwork? Almost as if he saw the thoughts on her face, Grandpa Bartholomew laughed. "No, it's nothing so serious. Not the kind you're thinking of." He stood, approaching his granddaughter. "Shall we talk of it in the garden?" With no reason to say no, Christine agreed, though with each passing moment she felt more sick to her stomach. Good Lord, I'm feeling more sick to my stomach with each passing moment. We have that in common. As soon as he saw the mansion at the end of the driveway, Dante was glad he'd come. It reeked of demon filth, or at least remnants of it. As if someone had been killing them off. But what demon hunter lived in a far country like this? And now that he thought about it, as Dante dismounted his bike, it was weird the demons would attack a mansion like this. At most, there was the owner and servants living in the house. Very few people in comparison to the city. So why attack here? And who was killing them? With a dark grimace, the man approached the front door, and without knocking, went on in. A few minutes later, after traversing the art-filled, rich hallways, gotta reinforce the fact that he's rich and he owns a lot of art, Christine and her grandfather sat in the backyard beneath a weeping willow, in front of a stone mermaid that sat in the center of a pond and spewed water from its mouth. "What's going on, Grandpa?" Christine asked, fearing the answer. The old man sat down by the fountain and beckoned her daughter. Beckoned her daughter? What? No. It beckoned his granddaughter to sit beside him. "I've angered some powerful beings." This sent a chill down Christine's spine, and she frowned. "Beings? That didn't sound right. You don't mean people?" Her grandfather looked at her meaningfully. "I meant what I said." He let that sink in for a moment. "So," she frowned, "they'll target me to get to you." She accepted that so fast. So fast. The man nodded. "That's why I want you to stay here. You'll be safer." Somehow, Christine doubted it, but she realized her grandfather did have many secrets. Perhaps the mansion would be safe, but even if it was, she didn't want to stay there. Then she remembered. "I'll be fine." Comforting, she smiled at him. "There's someone in the city who's really strong. He owes me a favor." Not true, but that was all right. "He can protect me." Her grandfather seemed kind of suspicious. He cocked a brow. "And who is this man?" "It's a guy I met through work. His name's Dante." At the sound of his name, Bartholomew stood, his eyes alight with fire. "Dante! Dante Spada?" he asked, his voice thick with rage. Surprised, Christine stood. I don't know his last name." "It's sure to be him, damn it all. He's a monster. You stay away from him." This was another surprise. Sure, Dante was a smartass and something of a lecher, but he seemed like he had a good heart. Seriously, she'd sprayed him in the eyes with pepper spray in the first time they met, and he didn't hate her. So why did Grandpa come across calling him a monster? In fact, it angered her. She didn't know why, but she was defensive of the man. What are you talking about? He's one of the nicest guys I know. He saved my life. Queen wants to know if it's confirmed Dante's last name is Sparta, or is that just Fannin? Pretty sure it's just Fannin, but it's pretty well accepted Fannin, and clearly I went with it. Welcome, JD. Thanks for joining us in hell. Let's see, where was I? Here we go. Sneering, her grandfather glanced back and snapped 2 fingers. 2 big brutes showed up and moved towards her, and Christine backed away. I'm sorry, sweetheart, but it's best if you don't leave. I can't let you get hurt. His accent keeps changing. I can't do accents. Her grandfather insisted, his eyes hard. Christine's eyes hardened too. The only one I'm seeing try to hurt me is you. Then she spun around and ran towards the house. The house was like a museum. It was almost empty and very creepy. Dante stepped through the front hall, glancing around. The lack of bodyguards was strange. Then, with his powerful hearing, he heard a shout far away. Fuck off! Oh, God. Oh, so edgy. So edgy. Oh, my writing. Oh, God. Okay. Christine wished she was more athletic. Need pushed her, and she turned a corner in the hallway. It was a dead end, but a stairwell was nearby. She raced up it. This was a strange situation indeed. Though she could hardly think about it. She was being chased by 2 giant meatheads. Christine knew this was out of character for her grandfather. The entire night had been out of character. Had she ever really known him? The thundering steps of her pursuers ringing in her ears, Christine raced out across the hall, which had a balcony that looked over the front hall. A loud whistle came from below. Christine slid to a halt and looked down. Below, the handsome hunter was waving at her with a smirk. Need some help? Dante asked. Yeah, catch me! Then Christine jumped over the rail, plummeting towards Dante. Luckily, he did catch her, just as the flunkies ran to the balcony. And now we run! Christine tried to leap out of Dante's arms and run towards the door, but he held her tight and ran with her. Hey, I can run! It's faster this way. But the grin on Dante's face said he just wanted to annoy her. But seeing as Christine cared more about escaping at the moment, she let it slide. So, what'd you do to piss these guys off? Dante asked as they raced to his bike. He set her down and jumped on, and she got on behind. I told him I knew you, she said, and Dante laughed. Nice. He revved the bike just as the goons and Christine's grandfather stepped into the yard. Stop! Bartholomew shouted, but Dante was off, his bike roaring down the path. Christine's car was long forgotten. You're in a lot of trouble, Dante told her over the loud winds blowing by. I guess I should be talking like they're on a motorcycle. You're in a lot of trouble! It's all your fault. For some reason, he doesn't really like you. Dante smirked, cocking his head. I couldn't see why not. It's definitely not the way you should word that sentence, but that's how I wrote it. Christine rolled her eyes. He told me I was in danger, and I said you'd protect me. Then he flipped and tried to imprison me. Dante glanced behind at her. Babe, I don't mind helping once or twice, but I need to get paid if I'm going to be somebody's bodyguard. Once again, Christine's eyes rolled. I was just trying to placate him. It didn't work. Really, I hadn't noticed. Frowning, Christine would have hit him if her arms hadn't been wrapped around his waist, is what I meant to write, but I wrote had been. Which felt very nice. He had such a strong back. One of these days, I'm gonna beat you for that mouth. If you're into that, sweetheart, he winked back at her, and she flushed again. He was such a nuisance. And so the strange duo rode back into town, not noticing they were being followed. Okay, so this image, I Googled bad guy stock photo or something. Like, I Googled something like that. And this was the first thing that came up. It was this, 8-year-old child. So obviously that's the one I had to use, for sure. Bartholomew was in the sitting room. His butler approached with a cup of tea. I can't lose her, too, Bartholomew whispered to him. Unlike her mother, she has a level head. She will not make the same mistake, the butler said. The heart makes mistakes. The head has no way to stop. Not sure what that means. You gotta move, buddy. You always want to sit right in front of the computer. Okay, sit down. Hey, Marlon. What was I? Oh. The heart makes mistakes. The head has no way to stop. He knew this was true, as he had once done the same. It had ruined him and his family. There was no going back now. What are your orders? The butler asked. For a moment, he was quiet. My granddaughter is in danger, he muttered. Kill those who threaten her, human or otherwise. The man bowed. As you wish. Whew. Take a second to drink some water. Hello, everybody joining us. It's a bit early. Usually I wouldn't stream at this time, but obviously I'm going to be streaming games later, so I was trying to do the stream earlier during earlier during the day, and then play the game later. I don't know. If this seems too early for everybody, I can maybe try and do, I don't know, I could do maybe 4 and then stream the game at 8. I'll have to look at my schedule and see. I don't know. Hey, Jose. All right. Let's see here. About an hour later, the two were back in the city. Okay, I may have to do something. My dog can hear me through the door. He hears my voice and is really upset. Yeah, y'all can hear her. Here, let me get her. She could say hello for a second. And then I'm going to have to put her up. Hi, baby. You want to say hi? You want to say hi? Come here. Come here. Ugh. Say hello. Say hi. My name is Lola, and I'm a dummy. I'm a dummy. Yeah, I'm a dummy. My sweet baby. My sweet baby. All right. There we go. Okay. So, I went and put Lola back outside. Mom was going to go and sit with her in the other room. And I put Lola down, and just as I went to grab her collar, she jumped up to say hi to me and slammed into my mouth. Oh, God. That was fun. I'm wide awake now. God, my lip hurts. Are we having horror games later? I don't know yet what we're going to stream. My friend Mars is coming over, and if Mars is up to it, we might do some Resident Evil 5. We'll have to see. But yeah, we'll definitely stream something. Oh boy, now my face hurts. Oh god. You're right, it is Friday the 13th, isn't it? We definitely have to play something horror related. Huh, well if Mars isn't up to Resident Evil, we'll play something. Okay, where were we? Whew. About an hour later, the two were back in the city, and a while after that, they were out front of the Devil May Cry building. Confused, Christine stared at it as Dante shut the bike off. This isn't my house. You said you wanted protection, and no better protection than living with the bodyguard, Dante said straightforward. Wait, you said I had to pay. I don't have money for a bodyguard. But your presence is payment enough. The way he said it revealed it to be sarcastic. Christine cocked a brow. For a moment, both were quiet. Dante leaned against his door nonchalantly, and Christine stared at him with her arms crossed. Could we survive living together? She asked with a laugh. Think of it as a challenge, the man told her, and she nodded. It will certainly be that. Glad you accept, because I certainly don't want to stay at your place. He turned around and walked inside, shivering. I might get cooties. Oh, God. You're an ass. Christine walked in just as Dante got a beer out of the fridge. When can I get my stuff? I'll take you tomorrow. He moved to his desk and collapsed into his chair. You do have tomorrow off, right? School, sure, but didn't she have to go to... Wait. School, yes, she didn't have to go. But work? That's such a weird sentence. I have to go to work. Actually, you don't. Dante frowned a little. I called your work, and when you didn't show up today, they fired you. Sorry. Once again. No specific name for this business. No. Yeah. Groaning, Christine headed to the fridge to look for food. That's wonderful. Then, Christine realized something. Hadn't she gotten the job hoping to see Dante more? And now she was living with him. If that didn't include seeing Dante, what would? She didn't need the job anymore, so that was fine. Hey, you'll be fine. Maybe you could be my secretary. You need a maid more than a secretary. Seeing nothing she wanted to eat or drink in his fridge, she settled for a glass of water. And tomorrow you're taking me shopping. Wonderful. Why'd I offer you shelter again? He muttered. For once, Christine smiled at him. 'Cause you're a nice guy. Surprised, Dante looked over at her as she sat down. What's with the change in attitude? Now she was a little embarrassed. Maybe she shouldn't have said anything. But she wasn't one to back down, so she shrugged. You are. You saved me twice, and for all your smart talk, you seem to care. She glanced up to him, but he seemed to be thinking it over, so she continued. I told my grandpa that, and he told me to stay away from you. He called you a monster. Her grip on her drink tightened. It pissed me off. I may not know you well, but from what I've seen, you're not, and he didn't have the right to call you that. I am, though, he muttered. Christine glanced up at him. He had a subdued look about him for once. You are what? Dante waited for a moment. Christine, confused, listened intently. Those demons I fight? I'm one of them. He looked her in the eye. I'm a half-demon. Dun dun dun! End of chapter 4. Cliffhanger! Except we're going to keep going, so... You'll notice that for the next couple of pictures, for the representation of Dante, I switched to using DMC2 Dante, because that's when he was emo and sad, and that's what these parts are. A demon. That was what her grandfather had meant. Dante was a demon. Or half-demon, he had said. Christine's hand trembled, and the drink fell to the floor with a loud clunk. At the sound of that, Dante hung his head. All was quiet until Dante's chair scooted back and he stood and left the room. You shouldn't have said anything. A terrible grimace came across his handsome face. He never told people about his heritage, especially not someone he'd just met. Remember, this has been like 3 days at this point. Why had it slipped out? Why? Whatever chance he'd had with her was out the window. He could kill himself at this moment. Okay. With a groan, he fell back against the wall and hung his head. For once, he wanted to be in a relationship with someone who wasn't paid. Heck, he wanted to actually know a girl, to love her, and he had thought maybe Christine would give him the chance. But dropping the demon bomb on her so soon probably killed any chances. Dante could almost cry. But devils never cry, he thought bitterly, and instead he clenched his fists. Now we switched. Christine touched her cheek with a trembling hand. Then she cursed herself. Instinct had taken over, reminding her of her few encounters with demons, scaring the crap out of her. And of course Dante had left, likely insulted. She immediately felt guilty and stood to chase after him, to apologize. Then she stopped. Had it been yesterday or the day before? She had been writing at her computer, thinking her main female character was probably foolish for falling in love with a demon. The demons likely were not good companions. Christine had been thinking how foolish it would be to care for something that was inclined to kill. And now she was rushing after Dante. Her heart hurt for him, and she barely knew him. 3 days. Such a quick change, and she'd hardly noticed the change happening. But whatever instinct told her demon bad, human good, had been silenced. So far, Dante had only helped her. He'd put up with her, saved her life, even given her a place to stay. She owed him, and she certainly didn't want to insult him, so she hurried down the hallway and up the stairs after him. The girl was surprised to see him leaning against the wall, looking angry and dejected. He didn't seem to notice her at first. Guilt made Christine's heart plummet, and she suddenly did something she never would have done in normal times. She hugged Dante. The man seemed just as shocked as Christine was. She couldn't believe she was doing it. But she couldn't let him think that his race, probably not the right word there, his species, meant anything to her. Dante was warm to the touch, and his abs didn't just look rock hard, they were. But Christine tried not to think about that. I don't care what you are, and you shouldn't either. Don't sulk about it. You can't change it. Christine realized her past comments of Dante needing a bath were wrong. He smelled very nice. A sweet aroma of masculinity, leather, and ironically, pizza. Dante wasn't sure what to think. His heart was beating fast, and the blood was racing through his veins. Why did this girl have such an effect on him? Why did her acceptance make his heart sing? He smiled, leaning his chin on the top of her head. Christine stiffened at the touch, but didn't flinch away. Breathe in, breathe out. She didn't need to freak out. It was just a hug. Just a hug with a really attractive, nice guy who'd saved her life, and he was putting his arms around her waist. Sorry for dropping that one on you, Dante said. What, the demon thing? Christine shrugged, moving slightly in his arms. I said it doesn't matter. You're kidding. Half the world would disagree with you. Christine chuckled. More than half. And the world and I never agree much anyway. Dante chortled at that. Whoa! Holding him while he laughed, his chest vibrating, felt kind of nice. But all good things must end, and Gandalf must stop rubbing his head on the microphone. Candy. But all good things must end, and eventually they too let go of one another. As they did, Dante smirked at her. He shook his head as if repelling something. What? Christine wondered. Dante looked at her again, chuckled, and walked away. What? She demanded suddenly, afraid something was wrong. Was her shirt inside out? Was there food on her face? The man just kept chuckling as he walked away. You hungry? He asked, turning to look around upstairs. Let's order pizza. Dinner was hilarious. Christine hadn't ever laughed so much, even with Madison. Somehow the scene from earlier had made the both of them more relaxed around each other. Likely it was because Dante felt more accepted and Christine felt more trusted. I really had to spell it out for you. It could have left it implied and you could have figured it out, but I had to spell it out. After dinner, they played video games, mainly competitive ones, so they could argue back and forth. Not a specific one, not a specific video game, just video games that were competitive. Mario Kart. It was like a drug for them. Later came the decision of who would sleep where. You can take the bed. It'll be the first time a woman's ever slept there without me. Dante winked at her and she rolled her eyes. I'm not going to kick you out of your own bed. Well, I won't put you on the sofa, Dante told her. Christine glared at him. I've got an idea, she smirked. Dante's bed had been cut in half by a wall of pillows, most of which had been removed from the sofa. On each side was situated one person. On the left, Dante, sleeping shirtless. On the right, Christine, who was wearing her own clothes still. How innovative, Dante complained. You managed to leave me no room at all without even taking up the space yourself. Genius. Christine frowned. I had a cousin who always spent the summer sleeping in my bedroom. She was a weirdo who always had to have this wall of pillows between us. That gave me the idea. Did she sleep on the edge of the bed too? Christine shoved one of the pillows over the edge so it fell on Dante's face. The man sat up, smirking at her. You looking for a fight? The girl laughed. What, a pillow fight? The great Dante? You're kidding me. He sobered a little and laid back down. My brother and I had them as kids. Kind of funny, actually. Why is that? We never really got along once we grew up. What is that train of thought? We had a lot of pillow fights as kids. Kind of funny. We never got along when we grew up. That didn't follow at all. Christine understood. Happens a lot with siblings. You know, one of you grows up to try and destroy the world. It happens. Sometime after the two became quiet, and Christine drifted off to sleep. Some point in the night, Dante left, and Christine awoke to an empty room. She shoved the wall of pillows aside and took the whole bed for herself. The pillow Dante used she tucked under her head, taking in the scent. For a while, she drifted between sleep and consciousness. Perhaps an hour later, she woke up when a pillow hit her head. Sleepily, she sat up and glared daggers at Dante. Hey, she spat. Hey, my spot, Dante pointed out, removing his jacket. You left, Christine pointed out, but she let him have it, backing away. She collapsed on the remnants of the pillow wall. Dante then fell back on the bed. Duty calls. When demons attack, I kick their asses, no matter the time of day. Poor baby, Dante chuckled. Dante fell asleep quickly, but Christine was finally awake. She got up, looking over her friend with a smile. Then she left the room. She needed to go to her house, and then some shopping needed to be done. First, she'd call Madison. Her friend would be eager to hear any news about the Dante situation. Thinking of the night made Christine smile and blush in a shy yet happy schoolgirl way. Grabbing a piece of paper off of Dante's desk, she wrote a note to him, left it on the counter near an empty beer bottle, then pulled out her cell phone. Oh, I forgot to do one at the grocery store. Oh well. You two are such a cute couple, Madison squealed as she and Christine entered the grocery store. Christine rolled her eyes. Speak louder, Madison. I don't think the people 3 aisles over heard you. Madison smacked her arm. About that grandpa of yours. What was that about his being a sweet old man? Sighing, Christine shrugged. I thought he was. Guess I was wrong. She shuddered. I wonder who it is that's after him. Hopefully the police, Madison muttered. Christine pulled a jug of milk out of the freezer and put it in the cart. Well, I don't know. Surely he was doing what he thought was right. Locking you up, Madison pointed out dryly, motioning to her friend with a loaf of bread. Christine took it from her and put it in the cart. To protect me, she defended. From your friend and potential lover, who he called a monster. Frowning, Christine sighed. Yeah, there was that. Christine had told Madison everything about the night before, except for Dante being a demon. She had talked about the fight, for lack of a better term, but had not elaborated on what it had been about. You know they had to share a bed at some point. It's a goofy romance written by a teenager. They had to share a bed. Madison grabbed a bag of potato chips and put them in the cart, but Christine vetoed it. She set them back on the shelf. Dante's unhealthy enough with his pizza and ice cream. 2 hours later, they were finally done, and Christine had all the supplies she'd need to fill Dante's kitchen with real food. Most of it was healthy, lacking in partially hydrogenated anything, and it all passed Christine's health criteria, except for the soda. She figured she had to have something good to drink that wasn't beer. From there, they went to Christine's apartment. Just wait out there, I'll only be a minute, Christine told her friend. Madison nodded, turning up the radio as her favorite CD played. Christine disappeared into her apartment. Once inside, the girl went to her closet and grabbed a black duffel bag. She hauled it to her room to fill with clothes and necessities. Dancing to the tune by shaking her head, Madison didn't hear someone tap on the car window. The second time it was louder, and she looked up. I'm really sad now that I forgot I didn't finish all my images because I realize now I have little tags to tell me when to make images, and I accidentally skipped a few, and this one is hilarious. I wish I'd finished it. Oh, man. I may have to post it later. There stood Dante, dressed and awake. He waved and grinned, Madison rolling down her window. If you're looking for Christine, she's within. She waved her hand towards the apartment building. Why, thank you. How did he find them? Why? So many questions. Meanwhile, Christine was busy packing. She grabbed her face wash and toothbrush, female supplies, clothes, a book or two, and some other things she thought she'd need. While she packed, she thought of her novel. Her demon male character was taking shape in her mind. She'd spent her morning imagining him when she'd been half asleep in bed. Now she was trying to think about how to write his entrance. It was very important. He needed to be somewhat suave, yet distant. Elegant, yet grating. In other words, he needed to be someone that her main character, Christiana, would want, but who wasn't perfect, and had some issues. Suddenly it hit her. She already knew someone likable, yet totally annoying. She could base her main character off of Dante. Hell, she could use her name. She had needed a name. Though there was the problem of her main female character having a name similar to hers. Someone could look at it and infer she liked Dante, which she did, but that was besides the point. Then again, the only one she didn't want to see it was Dante. Christine doubted he even read books, if he could read. Should she risk it? With the idea fresh in her mind, Christine set her bag of things by the door and went to the computer. She had wanted to take some of her chapters with her to his place so she could write. Some of them were already on thumb drives. She simply hadn't moved her most recent chapter to one, because she apparently writes them in separate Okay. Now, before doing so, she was going to add something. Christiana's eyes wandered the room to keep herself from being distracted. If she focused on the task at hand, on the footsteps coming down the hallway, slowly she might lose her composure and race from the room. She was afraid of the moment when the Lord would walk through the doors into the room, his cold eyes focused on her. But when he finally did enter the room, walking with a graceful, slow gait, Christiana did not feel at all as she supposed she would. Her dread melted away and was replaced with a fiery wanting. He was beautiful. Tall, muscular, and well-dressed, with a pale, smooth face, and blue eyes as deep as the ocean. He was divinity. Not divine. He was divinity, and did not look at all demonic or monstrous as the townspeople had said. Perhaps they had been wrong. Maybe the Lord was kinder, softer than the ordinary people had believed. Because he's cute, obviously. The Lord approached her and bowed slightly. You are my uninvited guest, I take it. Christiana blushed at that, then nodded. He looked her in the eyes, and Christiana was lost. I am Lord Dante. God. In my own self-insert fanfic, I had the main character write self-insert fanfic. This is the worst Ouroboros. Oh, God. A moment after writing it, Christine sat back, read it, and huffed. Ugh, it sucks. But she put the chapter on the flash drive anyway, planning to edit it later. Sticking the flash drive in her bag, she moved towards her room to grab a few more things. Then behind her, the door opened. She spun around. You? Christine saw Dante in the door and was surprised. The man chuckled at her. Yeah, me. You've been busy. He moved into the apartment, glancing around. Nice place. Flattery will get you nowhere. The girl disappeared into her room, the door slamming behind her. As Dante walked around, looking at her drab apartment, he examined her stuff. First, her movie collection. Most of it, he was glad to see, was either a violent movie, a horror film, or a violent horror film. Still, no names, nothing, no specific examples, nothing. That was a good sign. They'd never argue on movie night. Then he looked towards her video game collection. There was some stuff he'd never heard of, but most of it didn't look bad. But he did laugh when he saw a few badly made Yu-Gi-Oh! Spin-offs for the PS2. Apparently Yu-Gi-Oh! Exists in this world. I finally named something specifically, and it's Yu-Gi-Oh! What's so funny? Christine walked out of her room and stared at him. Dante held the game up. Hey, it was my favorite show as a kid. It wasn't around when you were a kid, Dante pointed out. Kid, teenager, whatever. Shut up. Dante returned the game to the shelf and moved to Christine's computer. Unfortunately for her, the Word document was still on the screen, right in front of the man she'd hoped would never read it. He scanned the top few paragraphs, sitting down to read the whole thing. Meanwhile, Christine was getting a few last things, her address book, her cell phone, and then started checking to see if she'd missed anything. Somehow, it did not register to her Dante was reading her novel until she did a double take. Mouth agape, she dropped her duffel and ran at him. No! Dante turned, surprised, only for Christine's chest to ram into his face, and with his own shout added to the mix, the chair fell back, slamming into the floor. Both of them fell onto the rug, Christine draped over Dante like a curtain over a window. Don't read that, she seethed, red blush coloring her face. Beneath her, Dante attempted to speak, but it was very hard to understand since Christine was muffling his words. If you didn't want people reading it, why didn't you just say so? The girl realized she might have overreacted. Sighing, she sat up, getting off him and offering her hand. He looked rather disgruntled. Sorry, I'm touchy about my stories. A writer, huh? So you're nervous about your work? He asked. Christine nodded, moving towards her duffel bag. There was a lull in the conversation and Dante smirked. Or maybe you didn't want me to know I inspired you. With a cringe, Christine froze. This pleased the half-demon, and he kept going. Lord Dante. I like that. Growling, Christine turned around. She rather looked like a demon herself. Dante! Outside, Madison heard a commotion and turned her music down. From Christine's apartment, she heard shouts, yelps, and screams, along with a lot of banging and thudding. She shrugged. That didn't take them long. Then she smiled! Maybe I'll be an ant soon! Oh my god! A little grin came to her face, and she turned her music back up, unable to hear something that sounded like a man shouting, Put down the stapler! Oh, God. I think we all need a minute. Oh, so much to process, and so far to go. Oh, I think we're like halfway through chapter 5, maybe. Oh, my lord. Oh, lordy. Oh, God. I'm so sad I forgot to finish the images because this would have been delightful. I'm very sorry. Next time I'll have to double check and make sure I did every image I tagged. Oh, man. Oh, this is actually the end of chapter 5, so we're getting there. All right. In a bar near the edge of town, a hooded man sat for a drink. In truth, he was no man, but there were very few ordinary men or people in this bar. The bartender looked him over and sneered, then glanced back at one of his co-workers. You're not here to cause trouble, are ya? The hooded man glanced up, his eyes twinkling. What? You mean in this bar? He chuckled. No, but in this city? A great laugh left his chest and sent a shiver down the big brute of a bartender's spine. The hooded man grinned vilely. Oh, yes. Ha, 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 ha. And that is the end of chapter 5. But lo and behold, to the horror, the shock and horror of everyone, there is a author's note on the end of this chapter, and it is as horrible as the last one was. Here it is. The drama llama is prancing around. Okay, he isn't really, but soon he will be. I hope you enjoyed it. Ta-ta! Drama llama! Drama llama! Why? That might be the worst thing I've had to read today, is the words drama llama used in a serious... God. Oh man, this is the last chapter we're reading today. What do we got? I think we got like 6 pages, probably another 20 minutes. I don't know. All right, now we're back to where the images match up. I missed the last few in that chapter, unfortunately, but after another boring school day, Christine had a pile of homework to do. Most of it was not a challenge, it was simply time-consuming, which in a way was fine, because Dante would be gone the whole day anyway. As she thought of this, Christine became slightly worried. Was her life beginning to revolve around this man? 4 days. It's been 4 days, let's keep track, remember. Sure, he was charismatic, funny, and an interesting man, but perhaps Christine was becoming too dependent on his company. Maybe she needed a girls' night out, or a girls' night in, or she could visit one of her parents. She hadn't seen either of them in a while. Christine realized how sad it was. Her friends consisted of Dante, Madison, and her parents. Then there was a knock at the door. Christine glanced at the clock as she moved towards the entrance. It was too early for Dante to be home, and he wouldn't have knocked anyway. When she opened the door, Christine came face to face with a woman. She was about the same height as Madison, a little shorter than Chris, and had dark, short hair. She wore a sort of white suit. Figuring she was a customer, Christine wondered what she should say. If you're looking for Dante, he's not here, she muttered. That's fine. I'll wait for him. The woman moved past Christine into the house, taking a seat on the sofa. So I take it you're a friend of his? Christine hoped the woman would say no. When she said yes, Chris was surprised to feel a flare of jealousy in her heart. God. Oh, that's so sad that I was clearly victim to the whole idea that women can't be friends and both be friends with a guy. Like, you know, the trope of every cartoon show where immediately when another female character shows up, instead of wanting to be friends, the main female character gets jealous. So sad that I fell victim to that. You must be his new roommate, the woman smiled. I'm Lady. Dante and I go pretty far back. Ignoring the fact that Lady was a pretty strange name, Christine moved back to her homework. I'm Christine, and as long as I can work, I don't mind if you wait. She started writing again. College student? Lady asked. Christine nodded, still working. The two left each other relatively alone, though Lady did turn on the TV. Christine didn't mind. About an hour later, she finished most of what was due the next day, and took a break. With a deep sigh, she stood and stretched. Homework was not fun, but at least she was done for the night. Christine moved towards the kitchen, thinking of what to make for dinner. Are you going to eat with us? Christine called out to Lady. Lady seemed surprised she'd asked. Not if Dante's ordering pizza again. Meanwhile, she rolled her eyes, and Christine chuckled. Don't worry, I'm making it this time. This surprised Lady, and she seemed to think about it. Need help? The silence, which had ruled earlier, ended as the two women lightened up and began talking to one another as they worked. So how'd you meet Dante? Christine asked. Lady was standing at the counter chopping vegetables. He and I both got tangled into a battle against his brother and my father, Lady admitted with a dark sneer. Christine decided not to ask about it, but Lady smiled. We've been friends since then. Somehow hearing Lady say she and Dante were just friends made a huge weight lift from Christine's shoulders. From there, Christine explained how she had met Dante. A few moments later, both women were laughing and gasping for breath. Outside, someone stepped towards the door, but paused when he heard the conversation. You pepper sprayed him? Lady gawked, sputtering with laughter. I felt so horrible. Christine laughed again, spreading the toppings over the pizza. He does annoy me a lot, but I still felt bad. He annoys most people, Lady sighed, smirking. He's such a child. The writer grinned. That's true, she laughed. He loves pizza and ice cream. He makes stupid jokes and annoys people, but in the end you can't hate him. He's kind of lovable, I guess. You really are a writer if you can attempt to explain Dante, Lady chuckled. The man at the door chuckled too, then finally stepped into Devil May Cry. Both women turned to see Dante step into the room, arms crossed over his chest. Miss me? He asked. Hardly, Christine muttered, but the smile on her face and the light in her eyes said otherwise. Boy, she had fallen for him, and hard. Inside, she cursed herself, but she couldn't change how she felt. Smirking, the man approached the counter and sniffed the air. Is that pizza? He grinned. Made it myself. It'd be much healthier than the crap that place I worked for sells. Christine, that place I worked for, still no name. And Dante leaned down next to her to see it. He frowned. What are those green things? Rolling her eyes, Christine shut the oven to let it cook a little longer. They're called peppers. And why are they on the pizza? Dante asked, pointing to the oven. Because, Christine muttered, standing akimbo. You need some vegetables on it to make it more balanced. And I'm making salad, she grinned. Dante's grin became a worried frown. Vegetables on pizza? He looked puzzled. Christine was almost hurt, and it showed on her face for a moment before she frowned. Eat what you want. Next time, I won't bother making dinner for you. She took her mitts off and was going to stomp away, but her stomping was impaired by a muscular arm that came in front of her. Dante smiled. Babe, I'd eat anything you made for me. He winked. Still a little angry, Christine huffed. Then you're eating salad. Laughing, Dante moved his arm. Anything you say. Christine moved to the fridge and got out the salad fixings, while Dante moved towards Lady. So you two acquainted now? Dante asked her. Smirking, Lady nodded. Finally, there's a new face around here, she told him. Why need a new face when you've got this? The man asked, gesturing to his own face. Lady glanced up, then pretended to gag, which earned giggles from Christine. Glancing over his shoulder, Dante glared playfully at his friend. She pretended to ignore him. So what brings you here? The man turned back to Lady and asked. Business, she told him, her look turning serious. Dante realized whatever she had to say was no joke. But then she smirked. It can wait till after dinner. It had better, Christine added, taking the pizza out of the oven. We slaved over a hot stove all day. Before the devil hunter could make a comeback about how he'd been killing demons all day, Lady shoved glasses into his hand. Get the drinks, she ordered, and Dante gave in without a retort for once. Once they sat down, they turned on the TV to the Comedy Channel. Not even, I had a chance to say Comedy Central, which is like a real comedy channel that people would know, and I just said, onto the Comedy Channel, and ate away. Except for the man, Dante was still skeptically examining his healthy pizza. Then out of the corner of the eye, he noticed Christine sitting on the other side of the sofa with only a salad. This was not strange. What did shock Dante was the realization he'd never seen Christine eat pizza. Let's take a moment. Didn't I have Christine eat pizza in previous chapters? I'm like 90% certain she has definitely eaten pizza before, but we're about to hit a plot point where I say she's never tried pizza, so good job, me. Even the night they'd met at the pizza place, he hadn't seen her eating any pizza. Very curious, the man asked her. Why aren't you eating it? He asked, holding his slice up. After swallowing her mouthful of spinach, Christine explained, I don't like pizza. Dante's eyes were as wide as saucers. You don't. Behind him, Lady shook her head sadly. Now you've got him started. To Dante, it seems like not eating pizza was some sort of sin. He looked very startled. How can you not like it? He implored. Taken aback, Christine shrugged. Well, I've never tried it. Dante moved closer to Christine immediately. Let's remedy that. There it is. I don't want to try it, Christine insisted, moving to stand. Dante reached out and wrapped an arm around her shoulder, pulling her back. I insist, Dante told her, setting his pizza down. He took Christine's salad and moved it away, complaining the girl stretched to steal it back, but Dante held it out of reach. Come on, this is so childish. Just try it. Dante picked the pizza back up. His other arm, which was around Christine's chest, he used to keep her from fighting back. And then he moved the triangular food closer. Frowning, Christine turned her head as Lady stood and left the room. Hey, don't leave me, but Lady ignored her. I don't want to watch this goofiness. That left Dante and Christine glaring at one another. Dante looked pretty pleased with himself, and Christine looked ready to rip him a new one. Come on! Don't be such an ass, Christine flustered, shouting at Dante. She suddenly noticed how very close she was to him. You like my ass. Oh, I hate you. Frowning, Christine glared at the cheesy triangle of doom. After a few moments of this, Dante moved the pizza back and forth, making zoom noises. I'm not a child, Christine sputtered, insulted. You'll tire of this and let me go. Now, or you'll tire of this and try the pizza. This went on for a few minutes. The sound of the toilet flushing and the bathroom door opening interrupted them, and Lady stepped out and huffed. This will never end. I haven't even known this woman for a day, but I know she's just as stubborn as you. This made Christine grin. Why, thank you. Lady crossed her arms, grinning evilly. This killed Christine's grin. I don't like that look. Dante looked back at Lady, eyebrow cocked in confusion. Both of you keep fighting for dominance, and it's going to drive everyone that knows you crazy, Lady explained. Let's end it now before I kill either of you. How do you suppose we do that? Mr. Ego here doesn't know when to quit. Dante retorted, and you don't know when to submit. The woman frowned. I don't submit. Smirking, Lady had an idea in mind. Simple. Fight. Winner takes all. Dante's grin was brighter than a supernova. Christine's heart became like an emo black hole. Oh my god. I hate you. Dante and Christine were headed towards the back of Devil May Cry, down a flight of stairs to Dante's training arena. He has an arena? He was grinning, silly-like. What, afraid to lose? He challenged, and Christine huffed at him. You have more bullshit in you than a cow, and you have more sharp edges than a barbed wire fence. Lady was following behind them, and Christine turned to glower at her. You've known me for a couple hours. Surely I couldn't have pissed you off yet. Nah, you're pretty cool, Lady admitted. She seemed to be enjoying Christine's misery. Then why'd you do this to me? Stop complaining. You sound like Lady when I forget to pay the bills, Dante groaned, which earned him a hard glare from Lady. They came to the basement, and Christine's eyes wandered the room. Mostly it was a large, empty room. In the far corner had some exercise machines and some weights. As she looked around, Dante moved to the center of the room. Then he spun around, jacket flaring, and lifted his arms. He beckoned Christine to the floor with a Cheshire grin. Christine did not move onto the mat. Truth was, she'd never fought anyone in her life. Half her childhood had been spent in her grandfather's rich people's circle, where young girls certainly did not wrestle. When she got older, she was too reserved to ever challenge anyone. She was hardly a lover, but she wasn't a fighter either. I don't know what that means. Behind her came the annoying sound of metal on metal as Lady moved a chair towards the wall to sit. Might as well get it over with, Lady told her with a smile. Christine grimaced and became angry suddenly. Sure, Dante was a powerful demon, but she could kick ass. Hadn't she escaped her grandfather's goons? She'd lived over 20 years on her own just fine. She wasn't helpless. She wasn't on Dante's level, but she wasn't helpless. And the way Lady and Dante were acting was as if she was a baby, and it pissed her off. Christine rolled up her sleeves and cracked her neck, and finally stepped onto the mat. Meanwhile, Dante grinned and kneeled a little. He clapped his hands together, whistling, and then beckoned as if Christine were a pet of some kind. Side note, that's one of his taunts he does in the game, which is why I put it there. This was the last straw, and with a snarl, the woman charged. Aiming her first punch at his face, Christine was not at all surprised when Dante caught it easily. But then she raised her leg and kicked him, which knocked him off his feet but didn't do much else. The man remained there as Christine kneeled over his chest and raised her fist. Then she stopped. How do I win this, she asked. Dante, doing absolutely nothing to defend himself, responded, Get me to submit, he grinned. Why'd you hesitate? Don't want to hurt my pretty face? Why had she hesitated? Suddenly, a terrifying image of Dante in battle being hurt flashed before her eyes, just enough for Dante to shove her off and roll on top of her. You really aren't getting the idea, are you? He asked, confused. I was sure you'd be a better challenge than this. Christine shoved the image from her mind and punched Dante in the face. As he fell back, Christine rubbed her hand, which hurt like hell. But she didn't stop. She stumbled and ran at him, shoving him down and jabbing an elbow into his gut. Dante caught himself as he fell, sweeping his leg out to knock Christine down. She fell, then scrambled to her feet, the blood rushing through her veins. Why was this fun? She was getting her ass kicked, but she was having fun. Lady on the other side of the room was on the phone, talking to someone. Christine dodged another move by Dante as she listened to the conversation. I hope he gets his ass kicked. He needs to be dropped a few notches, but I don't think she can pull it off. Lady chuckled into the phone. You should meet her. She's not as half bad as you supposed. Another friend of Dante's, Christine figured, just as her stomach flew into her throat. She flew over Dante's head, about to slam into the ground, and Dante ran and caught her, keeping her arms behind her back. Immediately, Christine kicked Dante's shin, struggling to free herself. I'm not sure what just happened. I'm not following the structure of this fight. I don't know what's going on there, but okay. Come on, babe. You know you don't stand a chance, he told her. No, Christine shouted angrily. I don't want to lose. I don't want to eat your damn pizza, and I'm tired of feeling so weak around you. And with one last kick, Christine freed herself. She thought she'd kicked his leg, shoving him back, but that was not quite the case. Mother! Dante broke out into expletives, falling to his knees in pain. Confused, Christine spun around and realized the horrible truth. Lady was in tears, laughing so loud it echoed, as she tried to explain to her friend on the line what had just occurred. Christine had accidentally kicked Dante in a rather sensitive place. Oh God, I'm sorry. The woman knelt beside him, trying to keep from bursting into laughter herself. In a way, she'd won, but that might not be the best topic to bring up at the moment. Grimacing, Dante looked up at her. Christine looked a little scared. I swear it was an accident. She was almost afraid he'd attack her for real. But Dante lost the anger in his eyes, and instead of being pissed, looked up with a grin. Kiss it and make it better? Oh my God. When the trio finally sat back down to dinner, Christine had a piece of pizza on her plate, Dante had a hand-shaped mark on his cheek and a bag of ice between his legs, and Lady was red-faced from laughing. I can't believe I'm eating this, Christine muttered, staring at it. Dante groaned. You're lucky I don't get revenge. To me, this is revenge. Letting out an aggravated sigh, Dante said, Fine, I don't care. Suddenly, Christine felt bad. She glanced down at the pizza and sighed. What would it hurt? Her arteries, she thought, but she ignored her mind and picked up the pizza. Dante watched as Christine finally had a small taste of the delicious meal. And as she chewed it, she looked perplexed. It's all right, I guessed. Laughing, Dante let his head fall back. All your bitching for that. He laughed again. Christine frowned. I don't like being forced, she told him. If I say no, I mean it. The man smirked. Okay. Lady rolled her eyes as she finished her meal. You two are better than cable. She stood and took her dish to the kitchen. Christine took another bite of her pizza and then had a bite or two of salad. Dante, having already devoured 3 pieces, watched TV. When Christine was done eating, she set her dishes on the table and let herself relax. Glancing at her, Dante chuckled. "What?" Christine asked. Dante leaned closer to her. "You missed some," he muttered. And then he kissed her. Apparently, or according to Dante at least, there had been a little cheese on Christine's lips. Dante applied... Oh, God! Dante applied pressure and then licked her lips lightly, taking whatever had been there off. The girl, shell-shocked, stayed very still, her eyes wide. Then he leaned away, a broad grin on his face. "I would hit you," she muttered. "And you aren't because..." Christine smirked and turned away. "I already did." As Christine did the dishes, Dante and Lady moved towards his office. "So what's causing trouble now?" the devil hunter began, seeming to be tired of the business already. He sat behind his desk and propped his feet up. Lady moved towards the door to make sure Christine was in the kitchen, then quietly closed it. "There's a new demon in town." "Great," Dante said, "and he's got a chip on his shoulder, right?" "Of course," Lady smirked, "and I'm afraid you're already involved." Without speaking, Dante nodded in the direction of the kitchen and Christine. Lady nodded. "Her grandfather mentioned something about a demon being after him," Dante told her. "Bartholomew Rodham from the Rodham family hunters. Ring a bell?" the woman asked, leaning on the desk near him. Dante looked like he recognized it. "Rodham, a group of human hunters who were pretty strong until they were wiped out. At least that's what I heard." "Almost all of them were," Lady told him. "Bartholomew was the last of the hunter generation, but it looks like someone's come back to haunt him, and your new friend will be a target." Frowning, Dante remembered the man who Christine had only barely escaped from. Wonder who it was he pissed off. "I haven't found out anything about the demon, except that it's been stalking the city streets looking for Rodham. Trish is looking into more. When she knows something, call me. Until then, I'm gonna stick close to home," Dante told her. "I'm pretty secure in the bank, so I can quit taking jobs until this cools off." That seemed to surprise Lady, and with a slightly curious look, she examined Dante. "How long have you known this girl?" He shrugged. "We met a few days ago, and we've been arguing ever since," the man grinned. "And what is your connection to her?" "A strained friendship?" Lady seemed to be waiting for Dante to explain. The man realized he couldn't avoid his friend's questioning. Lady was like a sister to him, and he knew she would keep asking for the rest of his life if that's what it took. So, huffing, he admitted something he hadn't even admitted to himself. "I'm drawn to her." Laughing, Lady grinned. "Is Dante becoming a one-woman man?" she joked. The man rolled his eyes, but he did smile. "I don't know, but yeah, if I got the chance, I would date her." That reminded him of something. "Oh yeah, her friend set me up on a blind date." Lady seemed confused. "That doesn't sound like a blind date." Dante smirked. "It is for Christine." "I give up on you." Lady turned to the door. "I'll call when I know more about our demon problem." When the two left the room, Christine was watching TV and sorting through her homework. She glanced up. "You through?" Lady nodded. "I'm leaving." She moved to the coffee table and picked up Christine's pencil, using it to write her phone number on the top of the woman's work. "If you ever get tired of sitting around here, give me a call." Christine laughed. "I will." The woman left Devil May Cry, waving behind her, before getting on her motorcycle and taking off. "You have pretty cool friends," Christine admitted. Dante chuckled, glancing at Christine. "Today was pretty interesting." "You said it. And I am sorry about earlier." "It's fine, I heal fast." And he collapsed into the chair near her. "And I apologize." Shocked, Christine grinned. "Did I hear what I thought I heard?" "Yes, you did. Lord Dante apologizing. Amazing, isn't it?" The reference to her novel made Christine frown deeply, but she let it slide. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have bothered you so much. You're just so much fun to tease." Rolling her eyes, Christine shoved her homework into her bag and leaned back. "I don't mind teasing, but don't try and control me." Dante looked away from the TV, and to Christine, "Promise." "But you have to make a promise too," he said, gesturing at her with the control. "And what's that?" "When we have arguments in the future, keep my balls out of them." Ta-da! That is the end of this week's journey into hell and horribleness. Jesus Christ. And it ends with that. Just so much. So much. So many tropes. The combat, the fighting each other trope, kissing each other because of like a conceived, there's something on your face, that trope, being rescued, sleeping in the same bed. God, I shoved a lot of shit in here. And I managed to introduce Lady. We're going to meet more people next time too. Oh God. And I think next time might be the last one. Cause I think we only have, no, actually we might have 2 more. I think there's 12 chapters. So we might have 2 more episodes of this. We'll keep doing Fanfic Friday, but this story will end at some point. Oh man. Yeah. 14-year-old Muse. So much going on here. And clearly I'm trying to build up to some kind of plot. Like for some, I guess her family is a family of demon hunters, but she doesn't know about it. And I guess there's a guy heading after her. I don't remember much of it, but we'll get into it, I suppose. I will be back to stream more tonight. Let me know. I may have to start putting a poll and see what people really prefer for time zones and stuff, because I do want to make I want to break time zones up and have things that happen earlier in the day and later in the day. I don't know. We didn't get as many people today, but the first time we got a decent amount. So I don't know if it's time zones or just people are available on different days, So I don't know. Maybe I'll try and do this later in the day, but we'll definitely do it again next Friday at some point. I'll post the times when I can, but I'll be back tonight with something, and I'll see you guys later. And if you can support the channel, it's always a big help. I'll be putting out a video about commissions and different things, hopefully today. So, see you guys later. Bye.